Let's start with that. Let me share my screen and then we can jump into Unity. Okay, and then see how much we can cover within the time we have left. Okay. All right. So this is where we stopped in the last class. Okay, we were working with vectors and then trying to get the transform working from point to point. So if we go back to this, we'll be able to see that we achieved moving our character, our player left and right. So yeah, we can move left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. So it looks just boring right now. So but from here we can create a simple let's say a simple headless runner. Okay. We will have obstacles coming towards us and then we can evade those obstacles by moving left or right, and then move on from there. Okay. So yeah, let's let's get started with that. Okay. So the script we looked at was this player script. Okay. So we looked at this player script and then we're able to set a few parameters, a few variables that we're working with. If you remember, we used a vector 3. Okay, so the vector 3 is is a property that takes in three float variables. Okay, and those float variables are the x, y, and z components of the vector. Okay, so it represents the three points, okay, of a vector, the three components x, y, z. Okay, and then we have a move increment of some sort to kind of know how far to move to either the left or the right side of the screen. Okay, but this is just um, the simplest method that we can use to get things working. So from here, we can start doing some interesting things. Okay, we can start doing some interesting things. Let's jump to let's jump to sorry, open the wrong thing there. So let's jump to the Unity Asset Store for a minute. Okay, let's jump to the Unity Asset Store where you want to create an interesting project that would have a character running, and then we can animate that character and then code script the character to do a particular set of actions, right? So that is one of the let me see interesting ways to learn how to program. Okay, actually working on a project. Okay, so we can search up. You can just go to 3D. Okay, go to 3D. When you get to the Unity Asset Store, go to 3D, and then click on Free Assets. So scroll down and go to pricing and then free assets. I don't want us paying for assets. Okay, then make sure to toggle characters and environment. So make sure those two are toggled on. Okay, and then select these two, city pack, and then select character pack. Okay, so this character pack has a free character model and then animations within it, and then the city pack has like an environment, a city environment that we can work with, okay, to kind of put a sort of level together, right? So make sure to add them to your assets. Okay, I already added them to my assets, so you see this add to my assets icon. Okay, so when you're logged into um, your Unity account on the asset store, just add to my assets and then accept. All right, I don't need this, so I'm not going to do that. So accept, and then by the time you come back to your editor, your Unity editor, go to package manager and then navigate to my assets and then import those assets. Okay, so we are going to wait for it to fetch all the assets. I have a bunch of assets here, so it's going to take a while to go through all of them, but we should have them up now. What's that taking a while? That's weird. All right, so these are the assets I have installed. So yeah, go to your character pack. Okay, this character pack, and then download the assets. Okay, download the assets. Okay, and then go to the other pack, which is yeah, the city package. Okay, navigate to the city package, and then also download that. There are a little, you know, there are little packs. So this is about 26, that's 27 MB. The character pack is just 8 MB. Okay, so I'm going to quickly import these two into the assets, into the project. Okay, and then we can move on from there. Okay, Idris, what's up?
Are we creating a new
You are fading out, actually. I can't hear you.
I said, are we going to create a new project for
No,
this
just
one
continue with the
particular? But we
project.
are working on
Just continue with the project we started with.
okay the other project.
Yes, the Unity project we started with. Yeah, we'll be structuring it from there, don't worry. Okay, all right, so now that we have both assets downloaded, let's just quickly import them. Okay, and when immediately we get them imported, we'll just quickly set up the project and start moving from there. Okay, so yeah, imports, and then we will have all the assets in. Okay, and then we're going to do basically everything we've learned so far, and then a few other um, additions. Okay, so that we can see how making a game works. We might not be able to finish everything today, but today and tomorrow we should cover up this mini game project. But just so we get familiarized with um, every single thing that we can do with Unity. So I have the city package installed, imported, and then let me import the character package also. So yeah, so you'll be learning how to use animations, sounds, you know, an environment scene, and then putting everything together to make a really interesting project. I might go a little bit fast, so be sure to ask questions when I'm going too fast, right? So let's let's come to our project window, and then we'll be able to see the two assets we've gotten. So we have the Polygon City Pack. Okay, so we can check through the prefabs and see the different buildings that we have available to us here. Okay, so so We have these simple buildings that we can use to put together a city or a sort of city, and then something really small and simple, and then the character arc. So we have this simple animation, simple character prefab. So yeah, so we have this simple character that we're going to be using, and then the animations are also here. So we can have a running backward animation, walk backwards, idle, players just standing, and then jump, and then a couple of really interesting animations going on here with the park. And we will be what's going on? We'll be looking to okay, so this is the run. Okay, so we'll be looking to put the animations to use, and then everything would go on nicely. Okay, so without further talk, let's jump into it. All right, so let's create in our scenes folder. Okay, let's create a new scene. Okay, let's start from scratch. Let's create a new scene, and let's call this scene a game. So game scene. Oh, you know what? Create a new folder. Okay, create a new folder and call this endless runner game. Okay, call that endless runner game, and then open up the endless runner game and the game scene. Move the game scene to the endless runner. Create a new folder and call that folder scenes. Okay, and drag the scene. So every of our scene will be in the scenes folder, and scripts. So every of our scripts. So we're putting in every single thing we need for the endless runner here, and then create another called prefabs. Okay, so make sure you have all of these going on there, and then we would have all of that working. And then move the um, player script. I'm trying to find where the player script is. So move the player script. Okay, oh, I already have a mini endless runner project here. Okay, so just move everything to the right, um, move everything to the right folder. So since we already have a mini endless runner folder, so we just have everything here. Okay, so let's get started with it. So let's open the game scene. Right, so we open the game scene there. So the game scene is empty, and then the let's drag the character in to the scene. Okay, and then move to the character, drag character into the scene, and then zero the character out, reset. Let's make sure. Okay, it's the lighting. So we can just position things properly so that we can see the character well. Let me just reset this. Yeah. All right. So unpack the unpacked character. Okay. So let me make sure we're even following along. So go to the Super CN character pack free and then navigate to prefabs and then the mobile. Okay. We're going to be building for mobile after this. So the prefabs, okay. Let's see. This already has free animations in them. Okay, so okay. I guess we can use this. All right, so let's do this. Okay, let's move. Let's take the prefabs and then mobile. So prefabs base, then mobile, and then go to the mobile freeman, drag it into your character, right click, and then unpack completely. Let me get rid of this so that we can see that. Drag it in, reset, okay, and then right click, prefab, and unpack completely. Okay, you can also rename that character to player. Okay, so we can rename character to player. Okay, so now we need a capsule collider, right? So a capsule collider is going to help our character collide. Remember what I said in the last class? It's going to help our character, collide and interact with other game objects within the scene. Okay, with us. So make sure that that is there, and then let's set this properly. Okay, so go to your capsule collider in your inspector, and then just follow along and try to um, so make sure just try to follow along and position the collider properly. So let give it a radius of 0.25 so that it covers up everything, and then make the center y at, let's say, 0.5. Yeah, 0.5. So a height of 1, a radius of 0.25, and center, okay, at 0.5. So that would give us a really good looking um, character controller there. And then drag your script, your player script, go to your scripts, and then drag your player script into the scene. All right, and then make the move increment 5. Your speed, make your speed about 10. Okay, minimum x position, make that -5, and then maximum x position, make that 5. Okay, and then now let's position our camera properly. If you look at the game scene, we can see that our character is super far from the super far from the character. So let's position the character the camera properly. So go to the camera, and then you can see this is where the camera is compared to where the character is. So let's drag the camera somewhere close. Okay, somewhere here, let's say -2.5, so that it can be like close to the character. And then if you go back to the game scene, you can see our character properly. Let's set this up nicely so that you can see this. I want to get a sort of Android type look. If you don't see the needed resolution here, you can just create one. Okay, so yeah, so you can create one by adding, okay, and then create an aspect ratio. I have an aspect ratio of 6:16. Okay, that's what most, and then name it to like let's say Android view. Okay, and then just make that the view, and then you have something like this going on. Seems like the character is too close to the camera now, so just push the character a little bit, camera a little bit to the back, so that we can have something good enough. Okay, then bring it up just a little bit, so we have the character here. Okay, so um the camera's position is at height 1.5 on the y-axis, and then -5 on the z-axis if you are following closely. So yeah, so we have something like this. If we remember the Subway Surf look, so the camera looks just a little bit like this. Okay. Um, all right. So let's put a base for us to work with, and then we can start doing something interesting from here. So let's put a plane, and then reset the plane, reset. So yeah, the plane would act as our ground. So if we go back to our normal view, so let the plane act as our default ground, and then give it a create a simple material for this. Where's material? Okay, so let's say base floor for now, and then give it a sweet color, and drag and drop this in so that we can have, yeah, the base. So this is not the base we're going to be using. We just want to have something to work with. Okay, so if we play this now, okay, position that properly so that, yeah. If we play this now, we're not going to see anything so interesting. Okay, it's just the player that, okay, moves left and right, but that is going off screen. So let's change the move increment to maximum to minimum 2. All right, and then put this at 0, and try again, and then see, 2 is still a bit too far. Then move increment 1, 1 and minus 1. Let's see if that works. Okay, yeah. So we want our character to be able to move left or right, left and right. Okay, from where we stopped last class. But it's very static now because there's no animation to it. It's just moving left and right. Let me say stupidly or stupid looking. So in order to have this, because by the time we stop playing, this goes away. So we can copy and then stop, go back, see it returns back to 5 and minus 5 and all that. And then we can paste again, and then it gives us back the values we need. All right, so let's start putting this game together. Okay, let's start with character. All right, let's start putting the animations for the character. Okay, so for the character to work, we need a character controller. Okay, since we're having problems on the group, is are we good? So if a bunch of people are trying to join in. All right. Um, Good afternoon to everyone who just joined in, and welcome. Uh, just in case you've missed out, we're trying to put a couple of things together for our character controller. You can go to the Unity Assets store if you want to follow along, and download the city package as well as the character package, add them to your assets, and import them into Unity. Okay, you just go to Windows, Package Manager, and then search for them and import. All right, so download and import. I already have them. So the character package, the character pack, and then the city package. So make sure you have both in your scene. Okay, and then yeah, we have been able to set up the character so far. So just in case you get lost, you can just go back and rewatch the video. And taking a few tips, you can slow down the video eventually if it's going too fast. But if you're trying to follow along and I'm also going too fast, please let me know. Or if I am, if you don't understand what I'm doing or you got lost in me trying to do a few things, please call my attention. All right, so we have the character in the scene and then a base for us to work with. Okay, so now we want to start doing more than um, having the character, just move left and right. Let's add animations to the character. Okay, so there is there's an animator component in the inspector when you drag in your character. So every character comes with an animator. If the character, for some reason, the animator is not there, you can add components and search for animator, okay, and then position it properly, and then look for an avatar for your animation, and then select one. So this is the avatar we're using, this common people at Emperor's avatar. Okay, so this is the avatar that belongs to this character. So the avatar is like a is an information about the character's bone structure. Okay, so it just allows you to access different parts of the bones or different parts of the character, okay, for the animation to work properly. All right, so that is the yeah. So this is the um, avatar. So now let's bring in animations. Okay, let's bring in animations. In order to bring in animations, let's create a folder and call that folder animations. Okay, call that folder animations. Open the folder and then look for animator controller. Okay, animator controller. Create one and call it player animation controller. Okay, player animation controller. Okay, someone has a question or someone just joined in. Okay, nothing so much yet. Can we all see my screen there?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. It kind of feels weird. Okay, so just in case anything goes wrong, you can also hit me up on the group. So I'm trying to follow along with everything. Okay, so yeah, let's continue with this. So we've created the player animation controller. Go back to the player, and then you see a slot for controller. Drag in the controller you just created and drop it into the player animation controller, and then open up the controller. So this is what an animation controller looks like. Okay, so we're going to be doing a couple of things here. All right, so let's um, let's put in a bunch of animations. So these are the animations in the these are the animations for the um, character. Okay, so we need the character to run. So let's look for the run animation. So this is pick up. No, we don't need this. This is run. Okay, so we need the character to be running. Okay, so let's drag in this. Okay, so select your animation and then drag it into the animation controller. So that is the animation there, running animation. So if we go back to the scene, okay, go back to the scene, click on the character and then the animator and open the animator, you see the run, meaning we properly linked it. Go to the game and play. When you start playing, you see the character would start the running. So the character is running. So move to the left, move to the right, move to the left, move to the right, move left. So it's doing the running animation as we go up. So uh, we are not going to do anything too complicated. We just want to make sure that um, it looks sort of good for now. So we have a character that is running and we can dodge different um, incoming obstacles. So about incoming obstacles, let's start working on that. Okay. So we have the player running. Okay. So the animator we have the player running. So it's going to keep playing the run animation, right, until we add something else. But for now, we don't need anything else. We just want the character to be running. Okay. So there we go. All right. So let's start on something else. If we need to add other animations, we can add the animations. But for now, we're not going to be looking too much about the animator. We want to get to be hmm, how to get disconnected. Wow. Internet issues. Why? Okay, I think this works. And slow.
Okay. And back.
Yeah, sorry, the internet is giving me issues, so I really don't like it. Yeah, the internet was giving a bit of issues there, so I had to switch. Okay, so let's quickly continue. I think I have,
Okay.
yeah.
We didn't start screen yet.
What's that?
Your screen, we can't see it.
Oh, okay. I'm sharing my screen now.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just pick up from here. So yeah, we have the character running. So when we play the game, we have the character running. So we can move the character left and right as usual. So the character is running and do left, right, left, right. Just like the Subway Surf kind of thing. And yeah, so let's start putting together obstacles that the character would face in the game. Okay. So first, let's go back to the scene and make this plane go almost infinite. Okay, so I'll just push it all the way to we can almost not see it again. All right, so I think that makes sense. So five, okay, and then make this 20. All right, for the sake of giving a sense of perfection there.
Please.
Yeah. Oh shoot, what happened? Why does it keep pushing me out? Hmm, okay. Okay, sorry. Let's start working on something else. All right. So we don't have any obstacles coming towards the player. So let's create a sort of obstacle spawner. All right. Let's have a spawner. Okay. So let's create a spawner. So what this spawner is going to do is it's going to be putting obstacles. It's going to be creating obstacles and putting them in the way of the player. Okay, and then let's put the spawner right in front of the player, somewhere here. Let's say 15, and then the obstacles will spawn here, and then move towards the player. Okay, so that's what we are trying to do with this. So we're going to create this and then start working from here. Okay, let's just put it up just a tad bit. One should work. Okay, now let's go to our project window and then scripts, right click, create C sharp script, and then name that script spawner. Okay, name that script spawner. Go to the spawner, drag the script into spawner, and then we will start working on spawning obstacles on the way. Okay. Um. All right. So let's open up the script, and then I'm going to show you how you spawn um, objects in Unity. Okay. So first thing we need to do is to get the object we want to spawn. Okay, and as I said, every object in Unity is referred to as a game object. Okay, so let's create a public game object and call that obstacle. The obstacle, right? And then we don't need the start function. We don't need the start method. Let's just go straight to the let's just go straight to the updates method and start spawning the objects, the obstacles from there. And to spawn an obstacle, Unity uses a method called instantiate. Okay, so you instantiate an obstacle. Okay, so the instantiate method, okay, or function works this way. So you'd create the game object. So you the game object where you want the game object to spawn and the rotation you want the game object to spawn with. All right. So the obstacle we want to spawn is the object we want to spawn is the game object. All right. Where do we want to spawn is the obstacle. Sorry. Where do we want to spawn this obstacle? We want to spawn the obstacle at the spawner location. Okay, so say transform dot position. Okay, so the um, position vector or the vector that describes the position of the spawner is the transform dot position. Okay, so if you want to get a position of a game object, you use transform dot position. All right, and then we can create a um, so we can create this spawner object. Okay, and then the rotation we want it to spawn at is the transform dot rotation. Okay, the transform dot rotation. Okay, so this is where we want it to spawn at. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. But with this going on, it's going to be spawning the game object continuously. And remember, I told you that the update method spawns every frame, not every second, every frame. So this means if we spawn this game object every frame, it's going to clog up our scene and then it would make our PC maybe start to hang. It becomes really slow because there'll be two game objects that'll be spawned, too many game objects that'll be spawned in the scene. So in order to control that, we want to spawn the game objects with a with a time. Okay, so we want to create a kind of timer to spawn the game objects. Okay, so let's do let's do something quick. Okay, so let's create a private float variable. Okay, and let's call that time between spawn. Okay, so this is going to be the it, this is going to be the time between each spawn. So when you spawn a game object, how long should we wait, you know, to spawn the next one? So if we spawn a game object now, we have to wait for a particular period of time before we spawn the next game object. Okay, so that's what this time between spawn is. So now we're going to check again our conditional statement. Seriously, stop. A conditional statement. Okay, this conditional statement is going to be if time between spawn is less than or equals to 0, then instantiate this game object. Okay, so if the time between spawn is less than 0, instantiate this game object. Okay, but now we don't have a value for the time between spawn and nothing is checking for the time between spawn. So let's create a public flow. I'm going to explain how this entire thing works, but let me get it going first and then we'll see what I mean. Okay, start time between spawn. Okay, so now we have this. So this is the one we'll be able to change. So let's put this at 1 second now. Okay, let's put this at 1 second. Okay, so when we spawn a game object, we want to reset this time between spawn back to a spawn time. All right, so let's make that spawn time. So time between spawn will equal to start time between spawn. Okay, so that game of that is going to be what we'll do. All right, and then else. So if we're not immediately we spawn, and then this time between spawn is not less than or equal to 0, we want to reduce the time between spawn using Unity's time, and then we're going to use the change in time. That's the time the delta time. So let me explain what's going on here. Okay, so when we spawn a game object, so when we start, yeah, the time between spawn is going to be equal to 0, meaning we'll spawn the first game object. Immediately we spawn this game object, time between spawn becomes 1. All right, time between spawn becomes 1. But no, notice that Unity does not, the frames, yeah, is not in seconds. Okay, like I explained, a frame, okay, can be, you can have about, depending on how fast your PC is running or depending on the frame rate of the game, a frame can be, a second can contain up to 30 frames. Okay, Unity updates per frame. Okay, so Unity would update everything per frame. Okay, so we're trying to make sure that it doesn't update every frame, it doesn't spawn every frame. So we'll have to reset the time between spawn to a start time between spawn. And our start time between spawn is 1 second, meaning you would wait a second, okay, before the next time. But you can't wait the second except we're reducing the time between spawn. And the time between spawn can be reduced using Unity's time dot delta time. So this time dot delta time is like the change in time. Okay, so there's a is an interval in seconds. Okay, yeah. So using what is explained here. So the interval in seconds from the last frame to the current one. So there's a time difference between each frame. So we're going to be reducing the time between spawn per frame. So every frame you take away you take away 1 frame, or you take away the delta time or the change in time between those 2 frames. Okay. So let's say each frame, the change in time between each frame is like a frame per second, or like 1/60. So that's like 1/60 change in frame. Let's say we are using 60 frames per second. So each frame each frame would have 1/60 frames in between, or 1/60 change in frames, change in time. Let me just use that to explain. Okay, so that is how that would respond in. So if we go back to Unity now, okay, if we go back to Unity, we're going to create an obstacle. Okay, we're going to create an obstacle and watch the obstacles as they spawn in into the game. Okay, so let's create a cube for now as an obstacle. Let me make sure that we're still it's jeez. Apologies for the network issues. It keeps pushing me out for some reason. Oh my god. All right, can we all hear me? I'm not sure what the network problem is at the moment. Ah, jeez. Oh, Hmm. Um, of all times. This thing. Oh, come on, mama. Hmm. Okay. So this is giving a bunch of issues in the network.
You can actually recommend our courses to other persons in future.
Sure, 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 sure.
All right. Thank you. Daniel
Yeah,
is back.
I really don't know uh, how to fix this because the internet keeps going off for some weird reason. And it also rained a couple of minutes ago, so I think that's what's one of the issues with this. It keeps going on and off. So sorry about the disturbance.
Okay.
Let's see if this balances out for a bit, and then we can go on from here. Can we all see my screen?
Yep.
All right, thank you. So I just finished. I did not even notice I was off. So I created the spawner script. Okay, I created the spawner script, and then the spawner script contains an obstacle. So this is the obstacle we're going to be spawning in. All right, and then we need to find a way to, because now Unity's update method works every frame. Okay, so if we just make the if we just put in the instantiate method. So this instantiate method is the method we use to spawn in characters in the scene or spawn in game objects in the scene. Okay, through code. Okay, if we just use this without checking for any parameters or any time delay or whatsoever, we're just going to be spawning the game objects every frame, which we don't want. Okay, so in order to control how we spawn game objects in the scene, we are using a conditional statement. Okay, the if statement check if the time between spawn is less than or equals to 0, and then spawn, and then immediately after we set the time between spawn to start time between spawn, and our start time between spawn is something we can change. So the start time between spawn is 1. Okay, so that's 1 second. So which means our obstacles will be spawned once every second. Okay, so it responds once every second, and then immediately this is equals to 1. We have to get a way to revert it back to 0, and to do that we just subtract it by the change in frame, and to do that we use Unity's time dot delta time. So this time dot delta time is the interval in seconds between frames. So the last frame and then the current frame we are in, there's a time delay between them. There's like a frame, there's a change in time between them. Okay. So that if your game is running in 30, if your game is running like 30 FPS, so that will be 1/30. Okay, and then it's keep doing that. If you're running 60 frames per second, it will be 1/60. So it depends on how fast your game is running, all of that. So I wanted to test this out. So we have our spawner here, and then we want to create the obstacle. So for now, let's quickly create a cube. Okay, let's create a cube and then reset this cube for now. And let's just put the cube to 1 and bring it here and see. Let's see how this looks. Okay, so let's make the cube a little bit bigger on the Y. So let's say 1.5. Okay, so we have the cube there, or 2. All right, I think we have the cube looking okay. Yeah, so the cube is just right on the ground there. Okay, so we can rename the cube obstacle. Okay, but right now the cube is not going to do anything if we just spawn it. It's just going to remain in that position. So a let's create a C# script to make the cube do something. All right, so let's say um, obstacle. Let's create a script for the obstacle. Okay, so we want it such that when the cube spawns in, it will just start moving towards the character like so. Okay, and then if it hits the character maybe loses a point or the game ends. You get like Subway Surf. So maybe you just give the character like 3 health points. If you get hit by the cube 3 times or the obstacle 3 times, you get spawned out or game over. So let's open the cube. Let's open the obstacle script. Let's waiting for Unity to compile. So drag and drop this into here, and then double click to open the obstacle script. Okay, so um, first things first, we don't need this start function. Okay, don't need this. So let's just create a movement speed. We want immediately the obstacle is spawned in. We want to make sure that it moves towards the character. So on the update, let's do something. Okay, let's move the obstacle towards the player, right? So the player is um so this is where the player is, okay, and this is the z axis. So we're going to be moving the obstacle along the z axis, okay, along the z axis. But this is positive z and this is negative z. So we're going to be moving the obstacle negative z. That's minus z. Okay, so minus z, and then we will be moving backward towards the player. So when you spawn, the obstacle is going to be moving backwards towards the player. So to move this, let's do transform. Now there's another very interesting function that we can use using the transform. So that's the translate. Okay, so transform dot translate. So this moves the transform in direction and based on the distance. Okay, so it moves it in a direction according to a speed that we'll give it. So let's create a let's make so like I said, we're moving in the z-axis. So that's the z-axis. All right, now before I go on, let's quickly do something. Let me show you something. So the vector 3 has a sort of directional vector. You can create directional vectors with vector 3. Okay, so if you do vector 3 dot forward, okay, you're going to be moving forward along the z-axis. Okay, so that's vector 3 dot forward. For backward, okay, you're going to just do minus forward, vector 3 dot minus forward. Like, do we have a vector 3 dot back? Yeah, we have a vector 3 dot back. Okay, so if you want to move vector 3 to the right, you just say vector 3 dot right. So these are directional vectors, okay, that we can use to set the direction in which our vectors are going. Okay, so we can do dot left also, dot up, and we have down, yeah, dot down, and so on and so forth. Okay, so those are ways. So we want to move the obstacle backward. So we can either do minus vector 3 dot forward, or we could just go straight down and do vector 3 dot back. So if we look at this, we can see shorthand for writing vector 3 dot 0 0 minus 1. So this minus 1 is showing that we're moving backwards along the z-axis. Remember, this is x, y, and z. So z, this is moving backward because it's a negative value that we're passing there. Okay, so we don't just want it to be moving backward, we want it to move backward according to this speed. All right, and then use the time, the delta time, to move it based on the frame rate. Remember, I told you time the delta time is checking for the frame rates that we are doing. So that's like the interval in seconds from last frame to the current frame. Okay, so that's what we want to be checking for. Okay, so that is what we do. All right, so yes, so this is what we would be working with. Let's set a let's just compile and then we set the value for the obstacle. So let's make the obstacles move with the speed of 5. Let's see if 5 works. Again. And then for this to be spawning multiple of it, like I said, always make it a prefab. If you're going to be using multiple of a game object, it's best to make that game object a prefab and then delete it from the scene. That way, Unity knows that, okay, we have one of these game objects and then we want to be using this game object continuously. So, and then in the obstacle game object slots, put in the, so remember we created a prefabs folder and we put the obstacle in the prefabs folder. So the spawner puts in the obstacle within that obstacle slot. Okay. And then if we go to the game and run the game, we'll see, oh, we've not set, okay, yeah, we've set 1 second. So you can see the obstacle is moving towards us and then to pass. And then you can see, if we go to the scene, we'll see that these obstacles are being spawned every second. Okay, and then they'll keep getting spawned every second. But I feel like every second is quite fast and they're moving quite fast here. So let's stop this and then tweak a few things. So let's say every 2 seconds, okay? And then the move speed, let's make it 2 so that it won't be too fast. Okay, so now if we play the game again, we'll see the obstacles spawning, and then we can see the obstacles are spawning towards us, and they're a bit slow, so we can just like dodge the obstacles and go on from there. Okay, so that's how that is working. But I want the obstacles to move a little bit fast, and they're all spawning in the same direction. Okay, so let's change that up a little bit. Let's change that up a little bit. So in order to change that just a little bit, let's make let's vary the let's vary the spawn positions. Okay, let's vary the spawn positions. So what we're going to do is create spawn points. Okay, so we're going to create spawn points. Just checking sure that I'm not kicked out. So we're going to create spawn points. All right. So let's um let's do spawn points one, or let's say spawn templates. Yes, spawn point templates. All right. So the reason why I'm doing this spawn point templates is because instead of spawning the obstacles directly on the spawner, we'll spawn the we'll spawn these spawn templates, and then these spawn point templates will then spawn in the um obstacles themselves. Right. So let's go back to the spawner and change up a few things. All right. So let's make this a let's change this to spawn point temp. So these are the templates we're going to be spawning for the um, game objects. Okay, these are the templates we're going to be spawning in. Okay, so um, we're going to have more than one. So let's create an array for that. Okay, so let's create an array. Remember how to create an array. Use um, your rectangle. Use your square brackets. I said rectangle. Use your square brackets. Okay, and then create a random spawn. So we don't want to control how we spawn them, so we can create a random spawn. I know this is going too fast and some of you might not really get it, but just try as much as possible to follow along, and then I would be explaining how the whole thing works. So, okay. So this, what does this random dot range do? What does it do? Okay. So what it does is it takes a random position, or it takes a random value. So this random dot range takes a random value, and we set a range from 0 to a maximum number. So this maximum number, okay, is the length or the size of this array. So let's say we have um, five spawners. Okay, five spawn points. Okay, so we want to get a random spawn point between 0 and 5, or 0 and the maximum size of the size of the array. Okay, so and then when we get a random value, we want to spawn that random spawn point. Okay, want to spawn that random spawn point template. Okay, so that's what that would be doing for us. So if you want to get a random value between two range, like so a range of two values, you can always use the random dot range in Unity. Okay, random dot range, the minimum value and then the maximum value. Okay, you can just hard code this and make this 5, but so that in case we have more than 5. We just use the length of the array. Okay, so no matter how much how many um components or how many game objects we have in that array, we would always be covered for them. So we would spawn a random template. Okay, a random spawn template. Right. So now that we have that, we have to create one more script. Okay, I have to create one more script because what we'll be spawning in will be this template. Okay, we'll be spawning in this template, and then for this template to work, we need spawn points within the templates. Okay, we need spawn points within the template. So let's create a spawn point. So spawn points, um, so spawn point one. Okay, and then give it something you can use to identify it so that we can see the spawn points here. So that, yeah. So we want to position these spawn points 1 meter away from each other or 1 unit away from each other. So spawn point 1 is in the middle. So this is what we're going to do. So I'm going to create, we need 3 points. Okay, spawn point 1 is in the middle. Spawn point 2 will be -1. And then spawn point 3 will be 1. Okay. So these would be spawning towards the player. This will start here and then will be at the left of the player. This will be at the center of the player, and this will be at the right of the player. So the player would have to either move left, right, or and so on and so on, just like that. So if we look at it from this point of view, you see this spawns at the left, this spawns in the center, all this spawns at the right. Okay. So now, this is going to be for all spawn positions, but we don't want that. So let's duplicate this. Okay. So this is for the first one. Let's close that off first and then work on the second one. So this second one, what we want to do is, remove the middle. Okay. So we only spawn in these two places so that the player would be able to move in the center, right? So let's duplicate this again, set this inactive, and then let's work on this. So let's make the player able to move in this direction. So this one, we can get rid of it. Okay, so we have these two. Now let's make one for the right. So get rid of this, and then the right. So we have one for the middle, which is the very first one. So if we start from the scratch, one for the middle. So the middle is the one that is free. One for the left, so the player can move to the left. So the left is free. One for the right, the one at the right is free. Okay, so let's duplicate this one for the right and make this second one, this middle one, disappear. Okay, so we only spawn in one position, which is here. And then let's do the same thing for the one at the right. Okay. Okay, so the one for the left. Okay, and then get rid of this one in the center so that we only have one here. Okay, so we're just trying to create different spawn points that would work for us. Okay, and then a final one, let's make it only that the one in the middle is the only one left. Okay, so we only have one, and that will be the one in the middle. So get rid of these two, and then we are only spawning in the middle. Okay, so we have these different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have these 6. So this one is just like what I used to create them. So what we want to do next is make the spawn points actually do something. So create and C# and say spawn point. Okay, are we still connected? Yeah, we still are. So spawn point. And then in the spawn points, okay, let's create let's do what we did for the spawner. Okay, let's do what we did for the spawner. So public game object. This time, this is where we're going to spawn the obstacle. Okay, this is where we're going to spawn the obstacle. All right. So this time we don't need the update. Immediately the obstacle, immediately this spawn point enters the game. All we want to do is spawn this obstacle. To do that, we just say instantiate. Remember what I said? Instantiation. You need the game object that you're instantiating, the start position, which is the transform the position, and the start rotation. So you can either make the start rotation the transform the rotation, okay, if the orientation of the game objects or the transform is to your liking. But if you don't want it to have any, if you don't want it to inherit any rotation, you can always use a quaternion dot identity. So this quaternion dot identity just says give it a rotation of 0, 0, 0. Okay. Quaternions are a discussion for another time. So and we might not necessarily even have a discussion about quaternions now because it's like a another level of let me say maths when it comes to, so it's like maths on rotations and orientation of a game object or a transform or a vector, not necessarily a vector sha, but it's has a complexity to it. But for now, just know that you can either use that if you don't want it to inherit a the rotation of the game objects. But this works perfectly for us. Okay, so instantiate the obstacle, then transform the position, then transform the rotation. So this spawn point is going to be, this script is going to be on every spawn point that we've created. Okay, every spawn point that we've created. Let this load up and then we'll add it to spawn points. So open up all the, and then select all those spawn points that we created. Okay, and then put the spawn points script there. Go to your prefabs and then put the obstacle game object on there. All right, so that way when we spawn in these templates, it will automatically spawn in the obstacle. Okay, hope we are all on the same page there. And then we can make the spawn templates prefabs also, because we're going to be creating more than one of them as we go on. So continue, just put all of them in one by one until we all have them here, and then delete them from the scene. We just wanted to make sure that we could create them. So then the spawn point templates. So we need all six of them. So let's create six, okay, and then drag and drop all of them into that. So one, two, three, four, five, and six. So what exactly is going on here? The spawner would, if we go back to our script, let's look at this. So we have six spawn templates and then a start time between spawn of 2 seconds. Okay, so just so we know what this is. Okay, and then each spawner has spawn points within them that spawn game objects, the obstacle game objects. All right. So if we go back to the script, we can easily understand this by looking at this. The spawner, okay, the spawner game, spawner script chooses a random number, okay, between 0 and number of spawn points or spawn point templates we have. So that would be 0 to 6, okay, and then instantiate one of them. So let's say we have a random number 1. The first time I want to spawn, it will spawn the first, to spawn the random number with the index of 1. The random one of the spawn points templates with an index of 1. Next time it will spawn maybe a random number of 3. Okay, so what it's doing is it's checking through all of these spawn templates. They pick a random one and spawn it. The next time to pick a random one and spawn it, and then to keep doing that every time it wants to spawn. So it will just be picking random spawn templates and then it will be spawning them. So and as they are getting spawned in, they are also spawning in spawn points within them will spawn in the obstacles. All right. So that is how that is going to work. So let's see that in action. So let's see that in action. All right, so respond and then move to the left, then move to the right. So they're getting spawned in, and then we can move. The obstacles are kind of slow, so we can't really see how they're spawning. So, but this is what is going on right now, and then we can spawning in the obstacles one by one, and they're coming towards us. Although they're blocking our view at the same time, they're getting spawned in. So we want to have to be able to control how they come in so that we don't obstruct our view. So if they hit us, that happens. So there's nothing is happening now if they hit us. So, but we're going to cover that up in a few minutes. But now we have the obstacles spawning towards us. Okay, so it's very slow game, but this is just to explain how this works. You can see it gives an illusion that the player is running towards it, but it's actually the obstacles coming towards the player. By the time you put in the environment and all moving towards the player, it would make more sense. Okay, the obstacles are quite large, so let's reduce the size of this obstacle. Okay, let's say 1 and then 0.5, 0.5. Hmm, and then 0. So yeah, let's see how this works now. Okay, so this is this. Mm, they're a bit more controlled. So we have them better controlled now. Okay, let's have them move fast. Let's say speed of 7, and then instead of 1, let's also make it 0.5. So that it's like a cube, then this one fits. All right, so let's make that. Okay, so they are spawning in, and then we can just sort of dodge them as they're coming towards us. Needs a little bit of tweaking, but I just wanted to make sure that we saw these things as they are working. Okay, so if we notice the see all of these are getting spawned in, you can see them getting spawned in randomly. 4, 2, 2, 2, 5, 5, 4, 1, 6. So these are the random spawn templates that are getting spawned in, and then the obstacles are also getting spawned in. But we don't want these to be clogged into the scene. If not, it start making the game slow at some point if there are like too many things there. So we want to destroy those game objects at some point. Okay. So what we'll do is the um, go to the spawn points and then destroy them. Okay, go to the spawn points and then destroy the spawn points as they are. After a while. Okay, so let's just say let's give them a so immediately after they spawn the game objects, let's destroy them. So to destroy a game object, you use destroy and then pass in that game object. Okay, you pass in the game object. Remember I said a game object, if you want to refer to a game object in which a script is seated on, You just write game object the same way transforms work. Okay, so that's how you destroy. So you spawn this game object and then destroy it immediately. All right, so that's how that works. Okay, then so for the obstacle, let's make the obstacle last a little bit before we destroy the obstacle. Okay, so let's see. For the obstacle, we can do public float lifetime. Okay, so the lifetime will be how long the obstacle has to, stay in the scene. And I think we would need the start function at the end. Okay, so destroy. So you destroy the game object. Okay, based on this lifetime. So this is only going to be called when the lifetime has been reached. So let's say the lifetime is 5 seconds. So after 5 seconds, the obstacle will get destroyed. Okay. So this is the destroy game object. Okay, or the destroy function that you need to use this to get rid of objects so that we don't have the objects clogging the scene. So let's make this look more interesting by adding actual assets to this instead of using the plane and cubes. Okay, so for the ground, instead of using this plane, let's go to the Polygon City Pack and then look through the floor. Okay, we don't want that. Let's have a sort of road. Okay, let's have a sort of road. Mm, let's see. So like all the roads are okay. So I think this road makes sense, or this one. Okay, so let's drag this in. Set it. Oh, okay, it's set it wrong. So that is this. Okay, so let's switch on our. That is 0. So let's bring it down just a tad bit. Okay, so this is 0.9, and then um, we can make sure this is in global space. Okay, make sure this is a global space, and then use um, the tool. Okay, so let's put this. So duplicate this and move it forward. Okay, so this is the road, and then duplicate this again and move it forward. Duplicate this and move this forward. So let's do it a couple of times, and then I will show us how to make it look like the road is moving. Okay, so I guess this works. And then put a game object. Let's have road. Let's have this road game object. 0, 0, 0. Let's make it somewhere in the middle. Let's get, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's have the middle one here. Okay, let's have this middle one and then copy its. So, so let's copy its position. Okay, so that we have it more balanced in the middle, and then paste. Okay, so and then move all of the road prefabs. Okay, move it in to this so that yeah, we have the road there. Okay, we have the road. So if we want the road to move, we have to do the same thing we did with the um we have to do the same thing we did with, so this is the road. So we have to do the same thing we did with the what are they called, with the obstacles. We're going to move the obstacle with the road this way to make it give the sense of, yeah, you're moving along the road. Okay, and to do that, let's just create, um, let's say, moving. Let's go to the scripts and create a. So let's say moving environment. So the environment is going to be moving and not the player. Okay, are we good? Still working. All right. Where is the attendance? So, so yeah, let's work on moving the environment. Okay. So first thing we need to do is, okay, moving environment. Let's create a let's create a moving speed. Okay, moving speed. So let's say speed, and then we want um the environment to keep looping. Okay, so we want it to loop as it goes on. Okay, as it's moving, it will keep looping and then going back to its start position. So let's say public floats end pose. Okay, and then public floats start pose. So this is the start position and end position. This will be the start position and end position of the um, game objects. Okay, so like you said, what we used for the um, obstacles is the same thing we use for this. Okay, so what we're going to do is this is going to be moving backwards and with this speed that we have here, and then backward as in moving towards the player. So we're going to check something. If the transform the position dot z, since we're moving along the z axis, okay, is um if this is less than or equals to the end pose, okay, we want it to snap right back to the start position. Okay, so but we want it to do that using, let's say, this, we want it to go back to the position. So new vector. If you remember in the last class, I told us how to write a vector. Sorry, I'm rushing, but I'm trying to keep time. The transform the position dot x. The only thing we want to change is the z position. So and then transform dot position dot y, and then the z position is going to be the start pose. Okay, start pose. All right. So, but we can get the yeah, I think we can get the start pose immediately we start. So immediately we start, we can just say start pose equal to transform the position dot z. So whatever the transform the position dot z is immediately we start is going to be the start pose. Okay, so that is that. All right, and then yeah, so we can just set the transform dot position, okay, equals to this position, this new position that we've gotten. That way, the game object will keep moving and then going towards a particular direction. So this road, okay, will move, and then by the time it gets to a particular position, maybe somewhere here, it would snap right back to the start position here, and then start again. Time it gets to that position, it goes back, and then it keep doing that, and then you see a sort of looping effect going on with that. Okay, so let's move. I think we can move camera just a tad bit forward to cover up that, and then bring in the field of view a little bit. Not too much. Let's see. Okay, I think that works. That works quite fine. Okay, so let's try what we have here. the road, and then let's put the moving environment to it. Speed 5. Okay, so start pose would be this. Okay. Um. So okay. Start pose would be this. End pose. So let's get the end pose. We want it to repeat itself when it gets somewhere here, I think. Let's see, how does that look? Hmm. Okay, I think we have to create two of these. Okay, so let's see. Somewhere here is, this is 5. So end pose would be 5. Okay, end pose would be 5. And then this goes back to the starting point, which is 9. So 9. So it's moved to 9. Then if we duplicate this and bring this here, okay, so this has a start pose of this, and then by the time this one gets here, it starts again from scratch. Okay, now let's make them come all the way down here, and then by that time this would have gotten here. Okay, so this would have gotten here, and then this will be, this would come all the way back here. I'm trying to make sure that when they repeat properly. So this position is 19. Okay, so this is 19. So end position is minus 5. Oh, sorry, minus 19. And same thing with this, minus 19, I think. Or, okay, okay, I think I know what we should do. Instead of making them spawn right back to the start position, okay, let's make them, let's create a start position for them. Okay? Instead of making them have to, because the very first time they move, they will be moving from the very origin, but consecutively it will be changing. So we want to be able to control that. So we want this to start again from here. Okay, so this is 37. Okay, so 37. So let's make 37 the start position. Okay, for both 37. So it would end at minus 19. So let's say minus 19. Yeah, that way it's out of the scene, it's out of the camera view, and then it will snap right back to 37. By that time, the other one would be in front. So all of this is just trying to make sure that everything looks good. So this is 9, and oh no, first one is 9, while the second one is 37. So if we look closely at this, we see that looks good. So now we have that. So let's try it out and see how that would look. Okay. Mm, that's the wrong. Oh yeah, we made this 90. Sorry. So the road can't be 90. Bring this out a bit and then correct this. This is 0. Okay, and then everything in the road, bring it back in. Okay. Do the same thing for the first one too. Sorry about that. Okay, because if it's 90, it's going to be facing. So if it's 90, this is where it's facing. So this is the Z. Okay, so and it's been moving this way, which we don't want. So let's correct that. So instead of making it move towards 90, just correct that. You can see now it's forward. Okay, before it was 90 this way. This is Z. So but now we need it to be 90, meaning facing this way. So that's 0 facing forward, and then backwards will be here. So be careful how you use those things. Well, in case you come up get in trouble with how something is facing, you can use X to toggle between local and global. So if you want to know where a game object is actually facing, you can switch to local. But if you want to like work on the game object, just switch back to global and then position it properly, see where it is in the scene, and then if you move around, you can see all of that. So let's try that again. So we can see the road is moving and giving us the illusion that, oh, we're moving on the road. So you can see that it's giving this seamless look that we are on the road, running and then moving. You can see, and then dodging obstacles. And, it keeps going fine like that. And then we keep going like that, and then we have something interesting going on. So we can do something much more with this. Okay, let's tweak this a little bit because it looks like there's a gap in between. So instead of 36, instead of 37, let's do 36. Okay, let's do 36 so that they are much more aligned with each other. Okay, and now, yeah, let's add a few more things to it. Let's add a few more things to the road so that we can block out the rest of the environment. Let's add the so so instead of calling this road, let's say environment. So let's say environment block. Okay, and then do another one. Okay, so just rename this environment. Well, let me just duplicate this. Create an empty, name this road. Okay, so this will be the road, and this road would contain all of the road assets here. Okay, so that's the road. Now we want to put buildings at the side and at both sides so that it covers up the boring looking. So let's say buildings right, and then duplicate that, and then the other one will be buildings left. So let's go back to our city park and look at buildings. So we have different buildings. Let's just, okay, I think this looks good. Bring it in here. All right. And this is buildings right. So move this to the right side of the road and then just arrange it to fit in this road line. Okay. And then drag and drop another one. This is looking quite big. No, let's not use this. Let's use another building that's smaller and rotate this. Bring this here. Remember how we did environment staging? So let's just put something nice looking together that would just, loop for a bit. You can merge them. It's not going to really matter that much, but just so we have something nice going on. And yeah, let's keep adding to that. So we have another building here. So bring this to the side a tad bit and let's see how it looks in the game. So yeah, that is that. and just a little bit. I don't want them too much on the road. Okay, and let's bring them to the side here. So select all of them and then just move them here to where the road ends. Okay, so let's see what other nice buildings can we use. Can we use this? Let's use this and then rotate it 90 degrees and push it to the side here to just add a bit of nice looking road to it, to the road. This is a skyscraper, too big. Now let's do for the left now, and then bring this over here. Oh, this is facing the right direction. 180, and then position it properly. Hmm, this building is not too good for what we need here. Too large. Just trying to make sure we have the right buildings. Okay, so let's just make this 90 and push this to the side. Hmm. No, no, this is also too big. Well, let's use it anyway. We just want to have something interesting going on with the um, road. So you can tweak it to make it longer so that you people will notice the repetition in the buildings and do stuff like that. This is looking also too big. Looking for like really good buildings. No, no, this is not a building, so it won't work. I'm trying to see what other props I want to use. It's fine. Random stuff. Okay, let me just add one more skyscraper since we have one already there. Make it 90 and then position up just there and then select these, make sure they are here. Okay, go back and see. This looks okay to some extent. But just for context, let's just try this out and see how it looks. And put this in the right side, just 180. Oh, I'm sorry, 180, and bring this to the right side here. There we go. So we have the the road, and if you play this now, oh, we have just one of this. I was supposed to duplicate this, so we can see that we are, running on the road. So let's duplicate this and create another one just on the side of it here, top of this, and then put this at 37. Yeah, 37 was the value we used the last time, so we just put it at 37, and then it almost seems endless. So to kind of give a feel of endlessness, go to Window and then Rendering and then Lighting. Okay, in the lighting scene, go to Environment and enable fog. Okay, if enable fog, let's just dock this somewhere here. So enable fog and put this at exponential and increase the density of the fog, or let's say that. So increase the density of the fog. So exponential squared, and kind of give it a little kind of bluish color to it, and I'm trying to play around with values until sort of covering and making slightly make it white. Trying to get a value here, somewhere here. So pick a color and then just put it there somewhere there. Okay, so we can do that and then just block out the end of everything with maybe a building. Let's just use a building to block everything out at the end there so that players won't see that it's just repeating. And let's see, yeah, so we can do that. So we can block that out just like that. And we will have a very good looking repeating background. I'll go back to this and then just select a color, maybe the sky color, so that things blend out just nicely somewhere around there. And you have your little streets where you can run. Okay, weak, still good. Yeah. So just set up the environment to best of. So you can see it's coming together a little bit nicely, and then we can avoid hitting these obstacles. Our obstacles are still these default cubes, which would be changing now. But you can see we have an endless runner type of game. Okay, so you can just keep avoiding to hit the obstacles as you keep going, and then you you know just moving like that, left, right. For now, even if we hit the obstacles, nothing happens, but we would start including a bunch of functionalities when that happens. But right now, we have something good going on, and we can walk off from here. And yeah, so this looks good. So to finalize this class. Let's create a reasonable obstacle, so that we can um, dodge something actually. Okay. So yeah, let's create the obstacles. Let's work on the obstacles. So if you already have a game object and you want to edit the prefab, you can go to the prefab itself. Okay. Go back to inspector, and then just edit things, and then it automatically updates the prefab. So let's add in um let's add in props that we can dodge in the game. Let's add in props. Let's say, okay, so let's play around with these props actually. Let's play around with these props. Okay. So if we go to the scene, we can see this prop is a duster or a dustbin. Okay. Trash can with so let's bring this in tad bit. So one, okay, and zero this out somewhere so that it's centered. Okay, so this can be 0, and then this would be within itself. Okay, so we have this going on. Okay, so now our obstacle is a trash can. Okay, so if we go back to the game and try playing it, we'll see that the obstacle will now become a trash can, and we can start avoiding to hit these. And trash cans are not on the floor, so we can avoid to hit the spawning trash cans. So let's try to make the trash can be on the floor. Okay. Let's bring in the prefab. obstacle creator and go to it. So this spawner, let's make spawner is 0, and then obstacle, if obstacle is at 1, oh, okay, that's what. So just check to see the best position the obstacle is to touch the floor, and then make your spawner that position, that Y position. So this is the best position right now. So point 0.5. So point 0.5 makes sense. Copy and paste to your spawner because that is the position it will spawn at. Okay. So point 0.5 and delete that and go back to the game and run the game. So you see that the that will be updated now. So you can see, yeah, it's now on the floor. So you can avoid hitting the trash can. So you can do a whole lot more with this. Okay, so from tomorrow we're going to add like um, conditions for when you hit the game objects, when you hit the obstacle. Right now you're just going past the obstacle because there's no like rigid body to do anything. So it's just moving left and right, left and right. But now we have an endless runner. So it's keep running and then you can create a point system and all of that. So from tomorrow we'll cover up adding point system, sound, UI, um, no, and all of that. And then we'll start building to Android. So you'll be able to play this on your phone at the end of tomorrow, or hopefully at the end of tomorrow. And I'll be showing us how to go about all of that using the Unity game engine. So if anyone has any questions so far, please um, be sure to ask now or on the group. Okay. So this is, if I post this and go into the scene and see, this is what is actually going on. This is actually what's going on in the game. So the environment is moving and keeps repeating itself as you go on. So yeah. Um, are there any questions? Okay. So you'll be able to play on your phone off your phone if your code is working. Yeah, if your code is working, yes, you should be able to play on your phone. Although we would need to include a bit of touch inputs because right now, remember, we're using for the inputs, we're using the keyboard inputs. So Unity has a touch input. Um, Unity has the input system. In Unity has covers touch inputs. So we're going to look at covering touch inputs for swipes and all of that. I think I have a swipe manager script that I would take us through, and then we will be able to see how to make the swipes. You know, the ways you play Subway Surf on your mobile phone, you swipe left, swipe right, swipe up and down, and the player moves the same way. So we'll be able to start covering up things like that tomorrow. So tomorrow, to recap, we're covering the point system, how you make get points, how the game ends, and then UI and sounds. So when you pick up an object, so we'll create another set of obstacles that you can actually pick up. Okay, so you know how you can pick up coins and power ups in Subway Surfers. You'll be able to do that in the game too, and we'll be looking into all of that. So, but for now, we're able to cover up the these few things, and I think the internet issue kind of gave us kind of set us back. We would have covered up more today. So, any other questions? Any other inquiries or confirmations or whatnot? Do be sure to ask now. It doesn't have to be about today's class. You can ask in general about different things, and then I'll be sure to answer. Okay. All right. Since we don't have any questions, I guess that covers it up for today. Have an amazing evening. If you have any um, issues or whatever, do refer them to the group, and we'll be sure to respond to all of them. Um, yeah. Have an amazing evening, guys. Good night.